this is John Colo with DiscountJuicers.com. I have another exciting episode for you today. Today what we're going to do is we're going to show you the proper use and operation of the Olympus and Jupiter citrus presses. I have several videos on YouTube explaining these machines and why I like these better than the electric reamer juicers that go that are annoying. But this specific video is going to explain the proper use, because you might think you might get this in the mail and it comes actually with some instructions that's like cut open orange, put on the thing and press down. Sounds like it's super simple and super easy to use, and that's right. I mean, an automatic car is very simple and easy to get in. You put it in, you get in the car, turn the key on, hit the gas, put it in drive, and you're off. But hey, if you've never done that before, then you might have a problem and you might crash. Actually, I think one of the first times I was driving a car, I crashed my dad's car, and that wasn't too good. So anyways, I don't want you guys to crash when you're using a juicer or driving a car. I'm not a certified driving instructor, but I am a certified juicer instructor. So I'm going to share with you my tips and techniques to get the best out of your Jupiter or Olympus citrus press. Now, what is the difference between the Jupiter and the Olympus? The main thing is the height. The Olympus is the larger version of it. It's a little bit more durable. Otherwise, they work identical, and these instructions will apply to both machines. So the first thing to remember is that this is a manually operated juicer. And unfortunately in America, we're used to driving our car 2 blocks to the store. We're not used to walking or riding a bike or even rollerblading. Actually, that's quite fun. But nonetheless, we're not used to physical activities, so we don't quite have the muscles we should, and we're used to all these other electric appliances. Can you even think of another manual appliance in your kitchen? I can't really think of one that people normally would use. But this will allow you to get some muscle strength, and a lot of my muscle strength is actually from using juicers and gardening. I actually don't like gyms, but that's a whole nother topic. Nonetheless, when using this machine, it does require some strength. So if you're old and feeble, then you might want to get the electric reamer. The other thing you want to do, first thing, is you always want to store your juicer with the handle down. When the handle is up, this is actually a major danger, because what could happen is if it gets knocked, boom, this handle is quite heavy, and I have had it hit me in the head before. So you always want to store this when not in use in its down position, to be safe. So next I want to describe the parts of the machine. Basically you have the whole machine that's all pre-assembled. You shouldn't have to take this apart or anything. The only parts that are removable on the juicer are these 2 parts here. They easily come off. Number 1, you have the funnel, and the funnel actually directs the juice into your collection cup, which I'll talk about in a second. Then you have your juicing cone. So this is basically a juicing cone. What happens is you put this in here, and if you see, there's 2 little knockouts on the side. And if you look on the actually funnel, there's actually 2 divots, that actually indentations that go in. So you're going to line up the two indentations with the 2 divots and put it in there, and then you're going to rotate. And when you do that, it's going to lock into place. If you didn't do that, what's going to happen? It's going to fall out. So that's how you remove it. But when you're juicing, that could kind of mess you up a little bit. So you always want to lock that in there. In addition, you have these little divots on the side of the funnel on the bottom, and there's also a place you could put that in on the base of the machine. You're going to put that in and then rotate it. That way when you pick it up, it's locked into place so that it's going to juice and work properly. When you want to remove it, of course, you just rotate it and lift up, and it comes right out. So that's easy. That's how easy the assembly is. The next thing is juice collection cup. So I like the larger model of this machine, the Olympus, because you can fit a 32-ounce wide mouth mason jar, and that's what I would recommend you use when using the juicer. The reason for that is when you put this underneath, there's like very little gap between where the juice falls and it goes into the cup, so you're going to prevent splashing, and so that's going to make cleanup easier. The other thing is that this holds like 32 ounces of juice. So I mean, I'll literally fill up one of these and drink it, and literally that'll be my breakfast. Actually, today I juiced 48 ounces of juice in this guy. And these guys are very durable, last for a long time. I love them a lot. So yeah, use the largest collection cup that you possibly could fit, and the one that's going to go up to the top so you reduce the splashing. Let's see, the next thing I want to talk about is the capacity of the machine. The capacity of the machine, say you have a super large pomelo. Pomelos are great fruits, but they're probably not optimally juiced in this. A lot of pomelos get huge and they have really thick rinds. And so there is limitations on how wide or how big of a diameter the fruit can be. For example, we got a standard ruler here, and if we measure the cone from end to end, it's about 5 inches, approximately. Yeah, just about 5 inches. That being said, you can't put a 5-inch diameter fruit in there. It's too large. So actually the optimal diameter fruit, or the largest diameter fruit you should even be thinking about using, is 4 inches. And you can do 4 inches, but that being said, it's easier to do the smaller fruits. So smaller fruits are easier juiced. So I would actually encourage you to get about 2.5, maybe 3-inch diameter fruits on average. So when you're going at the produce store, when you're picking out the produce, pick out the smaller oranges out of the bunch. Don't pick the super gigantic large ones. You know, they're not going to quite work as well. So the machine is designed to handle a standardized, you know, maybe 2.5, 3-inch fruit. If you do larger, it'll work, but you know, it's going to make it a little more difficult to pull down. The next thing is that a lot of the fruits being sold in trade, a lot of times actually the smaller ones are less expensive. So that's really good, so you can save some money and get the appropriate size for your machine. Next, let's talk about what this juices. Today I only happen to have some oranges, but this machine will juice all the different citruses, you know, in one way or another. So things like limes and lemons, really easy to juice in this guy. Tangerines, also really easy to juice. Oranges, really easy to juice, but there is an exception. Number one, in my opinion, you should only juice the Valencia oranges, or Valencia, or also called juice oranges. You know, those are better juicing oranges than, say, the navels. How can you tell if you got a navel orange? Well, you just look on the orange. Hopefully there's a sign at the store, but if there isn't, you look on the end, and it looks like a little belly button. See that belly button there? And see my belly button here? Kind of looks like the same thing. And that's your navel, or your belly button, and this is a navel orange. So these guys, because how these are grown on the tree and the genetics, and that why they make that navel is because the structure inside the orange is a little bit different, and it's not optimal for using in this juicer. So if you get this, it's going to make your life a little bit more difficult, although they can be juiced. Also, I find the navels are not quite as juicy and don't juice as well. So by getting Valencias or juicing oranges, you're going to actually get higher yields, and it's going to be easier to juice. Besides the oranges, you could also juice things like grapefruit. I said I juiced grapefruit earlier, and of course, just like oranges, when picking out your grapefruit at the store, you want to get the small diameter fruits, you know, as small as possible. Get all the small ones. Pick through all the different ones at the produce market and get the small ones. They're going to do a lot better. That being said, if you do get a bigger one, I'm going to show you the technique to juice a bigger one to make it a little bit easier. As I said, you could juice all citrus. You could also juice pomelos. Even though they're super large, there's also a technique which I'll show with this large orange, because this large orange, it's a bit too large. Let's see how big this is. This is about a 4-inch diameter, so like for me, this is getting on the point where it'd be too large to juice, so I'm going to use a special technique that I'll show you in a second. So the other thing this will juice is pomegranates, besides all the citrus, and pomegranates are one of the most antioxidant-rich fruits, really rich in pigments and polyphenols. And this does an amazing job. You cut the pomegranate in half, put it on there, and literally squeeze all that juice out. But watch out, the pomegranate juice is a nice dark, like purple pinkish, and that will stain really bad. So clean that up right after you're juicing them. So what we're going to do next is I'm actually going to demonstrate juicing into this machine, and also give you some further hints and tips that'll allow you to juice easier in this machine. First off, this machine is made in a factory, and all these parts are all pre-drilled. I've never had a defective one come back for being assembled improperly, and it's too hard to use. You know, I have had them sometimes where they get damaged in shipping or whatnot, you know, but normally these guys are, I've never had one that was like off kilter or, you know, misaligned at the factory, because I also believe they test them, you know, before they ship them out. So the first thing you want to do when you get the machine, you want to just, you know, use the handle and go up and down and make sure it has a nice smooth motion. There's one sliding area on the machine. It's right here, and sometimes I'll lube that up with like something like coconut oil, a nice thicker oil, just a little bit on there. It'll help that. The other thing when cleaning the machine is that you want to clean your funnel and cone all the time. Then also you want to take a sponge and clean up underneath this area. This area does tend to get stained, and if you just basically wipe it after each use, you're going to keep it a lot cleaner. I want you guys to understand the principle of how this machine works. Literally, how this works, it works like Arnold Schwarzenegger. If he took an orange and said, "I'm the Terminator, I can squeeze the orange," and he literally squeeze the orange and squeeze all the juice out. And that's how this works. It works by squeezing or pressing all the juice out. It's one of my favorite extraction methods for the citrus fruits. So basically what happens is when you push this down all the way, this cone goes down, and there's a cone on the bottom that goes down too. And as you can see, it goes down and literally squeezes all the liquids out of the peel. And it comes down to such an extent that there's maybe like an 1/8 inch left between the top and the bottom. So that's the area for your peel. So another thing to ensure your success is to purchase citrus fruits with thin peels. You know, optimally would like to be 1/8 inch or less. If it's more, then it may not work as well, but I'll explain that because actually these guys have thicker rinds, and I'll explain how to do that exactly. So that's the other tip is, you know, get oranges that have thinner rinds as much as possible. The other tip is also when you're selecting your oranges, right? You could go to the produce department and feel all the oranges, pick them up. You want to do two things when selecting your oranges. You want to select the best oranges you can that are most juiciest. So for example, you're going to pick up an orange maybe this size, you're going to pick up another one this size. You're going to feel it in your hand, the weight. So you want to have the orange that's the heaviest per the size. So for example, if I had one this size, another one this size, and this one was heavier, I'd want to get this one. Why is that? Well, the thing is, the heavier they are, the more liquid they contain inside. Sometimes orange growers and farmers pick their oranges a little bit too late when they're getting dried up, or maybe they've been sitting on the shelf too long and they're kind of drying up and they're past their prime. So oranges that are lighter are harder to juice because they don't have as much juice in there. Consequently, when you go to press them out, it's going to be harder because there's not as much juice that's going to get released. It's all hard and fibrous. So that's another important factor. The other thing besides the weight, you want to squeeze that orange like you're squeezing an avocado, or hopefully gently testing to see if it's ripe as not to bruise them. You want to check and, you know, gently press your oranges. You know, it's especially important, like this orange right here is nice and firm and hard. Now you don't want ones like this because guess what? They have a harder, firmer texture. This actually also happens to be really light, and I can tell you once we cut this open what it looks like. It's not going to have a lot of juice, and it's not going to actually juice too easily. So you want to get one that's nice and, you know, heavy and, you know, gives it a little bit of pressure. Now you don't want to put your finger through it because then it's overripe. But this one's actually a fairly good one because you can see I could press into it a little bit, it gives, and it's nice and heavy. That being said, we want to get the Valencias, not the navels. This is what I happen to have today in my kitchen. So the next thing to do is you want to cut the fruit. So if you look at every fruit, they always have like the little stem in, and that's where it's attached to the tree. You always want to take this and hold it like this. And you're going to cut like this direction, like along the equator. If this is like the North Pole, you're going to cut along the equator, because if you cut this direction, you know, through the top, the segments of the oranges are not going the right way, and you're not going to be able to effectively juice them. So, so we're just going to go ahead and cut this right in half, and you're going to try to get it right straight in half. Wow, and check it out. So we can see in this orange, I don't know if the camera could pick that up, but you can see this orange is very dry. It's not super juicy, not super wet. I could probably squeeze it and a little bit comes out, but it's really hard, so it's not going to juice well. The next thing is you want to take the center of the orange, and then you want to put this on this little nub right here. So very important to center it up, and then I usually just set it in place and press it down a little bit so it'll stay, because if it goes like that, it's not going to juice well. So we're going to put it like that. The other thing you want to do is, for this demonstration, I'm actually showing the machine at a side angle. You don't want to juice like that. You want to have the juicer facing you. So, you know, we're just going to press down on it, and we're going to go down, and it does take some strength to push it down, especially when the oranges are old like this. See, it's even harder for me, and then you keep going, and I can't even go all the way down because this is an old orange. So that being said, I'm trying to press it all out, and you can see I'm getting all the juice, but this is just an old orange, and it's not juicing too well. And I got actually very little juice, so that's why proper selection is very important. The other thing to remember, and this is a very important point to remember, is, and this is why some people don't like these machines, is because if you press down and try to just press it way down too hard, and actually the peel part, and this peel is actually a 1/4 inch. If your peel is more than like a little bit more than an 1/8 inch, then what's going to happen when you press it down to the full stroke, and if you get this to lock all the way in its down position, then what's happening is you're not only pressing out all the liquid or the juice, you're also going to be pressing out the bitter rind oil from the skin, and then that'll make your orange juice taste not as good. So what you want to do when you're juicing, it's a feedback system. You don't want to just blast it down and think, oh yeah, I'm blasting it down, that's the best. Not always. Especially in this, number one, I couldn't even get it all the way down. Number two, you want to just press down until you feel some resistance, and then you want to stop. That way you're just going to get all the liquid out and not press the bitter rind oils out of the orange. So some other tips to make pressing pretty easy. Once again, you want to have the juicer facing towards you, so I'll go ahead and show that. You want to have the juicer, you know, facing towards you, and you want to have it at a comfortable distance, you know, on the counter. So this is actually a little bit close right now, so I'd want to back this up personally. But you don't want it too far in the counter, and you don't want it too far to the edge. I guess if you didn't have a wall behind you, you could put it on the edge and just back up a little bit. But the other thing to remember is that you want it at a nice height. So this machine works on the principle of leverage, and you are also a big lever when using this machine. So for example, I'm filming this video, and this table is about actually above my belly button here. So this is not the optimal table to be juicing on. For best results, you want to actually put this at a counter height, or actually a table height, because the lower you could get this, the more leverage actually you'll be able to exert on it. And I'm not a physicist or mathematician that could tell you the equation for that. Every inch you go down, you get an X more pressure. So that's the other thing. The other thing, if you can't lower this down, put it on a smaller, or lower table instead of your kitchen counter, then you could stand on a step stool. Now make sure you get a nice, durable, and sturdy step stool, and step on that when juicing. That will raise you up instead of lowering down the juicer, and that once again will also give you a little bit more leverage. Let's go ahead and turn this to the side and continue with our demonstration. So as you can see, this orange was not an optimal orange. Number one, it's a navel, which is not the kind you should be juicing. Number two, is really dry. And I can't control your produce quality depending on where you live, but I can say you may want to visit different stores. Some stores turn more oranges than others, and may have better quality stuff. Next, I want to get into juicing the larger ones. This is a 4-inch diameter fruit, and let's show you the two different ways to do this. The first way is simply we're going to cut this in half, just like the regular one. And this is a lot better orange. It's more juicy, so you can kind of see the difference in there. This is more dried up. This is more juicy. And these are kind of like the extreme examples, and there's a range of them. So you always want to try to get the juiciest ones as possible. So if we put this 4-inch diameter, if we put this on the juicing cone here, you can see like it really covers a large percentage of the cone. Now this is not the optimal way to juice, although it will work. But also this is going to make it a little bit more challenging, to juice, because you're going to have to exert a little bit more strength. So to do this, once again, we got it centered up, and sometimes I'll actually even press it down a little bit, and when it's a juicy orange, it does that, so that'll get it started for you. That may make pressing it down a little bit easier. Then we're just going to take it and push it down. And sometimes I like to put my hand on the back of the machine to kind of give me some extra leverage. And you can see I'm like flexing my muscles. This does give you a workout. But what's happening now is the orange is compressing in, and I'll actually pick the cone up to show you guys what's happening. And now I know I'm pressing out the bitter orange oils, because you can see it. The bitter orange oil is actually like a white, liquidy, kind of milky color mixing in with my orange juice, because I'm blasting it all the way down and it's in its locked position. This is actually not too good unless you want the bitter orange oil, like a friend that is coming over, you want to serve him orange juice but you don't like him, you could give him the bitter stuff. So yeah, this orange juice is way too big, and let me go ahead and show you. Number one, the juice is not all draining down, so I have to kind of move this around. And sometimes when I'm taking this off, I'll spin it around, and that'll help get some of the juice in the funnel down into the collection cup here. So we'll spin that around, take that off, and I'm going to twist that around so I don't drip juice everywhere. And look at that. You see how now this orange now completely filled the diameter of this whole funnel? That's actually not a good thing. It does work and you can do it, but I don't recommend you do it, because it makes pressing down like a lot harder than it should be. And also, number one, I'm pressing bitter orange skin oil, which is not good. And number two, because it's now covering the whole funnel, the juice actually can't drain down. So it's also going to make a mess. So this actually is not recommended. So we're going to go ahead and put that back in there. And the better way to do a large one like this is to basically cut it in half and then cut it in half again. So we're going to put that down and then cut this in half again. And then we're going to take this half, oops, we're going to take this half and actually center up this part on the middle nub, just like this. And this one you will have to press down a little bit to get it actually stable, just like that. And now instead of pressing a whole half, we're pressing, oops, instead of pressing a whole half, we're pressing a quarter. So this is actually going to be much easier. And it's really important to center this pretty good so that when you press down, it's going to work better. And now when pressing this down, it's actually much easier to press down, because we're not having to press down the whole weight and the resistance of the whole half of orange. We're only doing, a quarter of it. And now what happens is, you can see we're actually pressing out the orange pretty well. There's space for the juice to go down into the collection cup. And then, sometimes when I press down, I'll go down all the way, and then I'll come up, and then I'll go down again. That'll just get a little bit of extra pressing. Then we'll come up. And this just basically, you can see we got a mashed orange on here, and it actually still, even just a quarter of this, filled up the whole cone, but it didn't fill it up to the exact example of this. And, I got the orange juice there. So that's how you juice bigger things like larger oranges or grapefruits or pomelos that are actually over 4 inches in diameter. Once again, I don't recommend you juice 4 inches diameter just like this. It doesn't work so well, so you want to quarter them up so that they'll juice better. So hopefully with some of the tips that I shared, and let's review those. Number one starts with produce selection in the store. If you want to juice oranges, go for the Valencia oranges or the juicing oranges. Number two, get small diameter. Very important. Try to get 2-inch diameter and take a ruler with you to the grocery store. You know, people will kind of look at you funny. What are they doing? So you want to get 2.5, 3-inch diameter like max. Those definitely work the best. You want to try to get oranges or citrus with thin rinds. You know, many produce shops, if you ask them to sample a fruit, they'll do it. So grab one and say, hey, you know, can you guys cut this open? Ask the produce guy. Whole Foods, as a rule, will do that for you. You can cut it open so you can inspect the rind and see how thick it is before you buy them. The other thing that you need to do is prepare the produce properly. So if they're small diameter, cut them in half, put them on there, press it down. If they're larger diameter, you're going to have to, you know, quarter them up to juice them. The next step is to make sure that you have proper leverage. So if you're not that strong and don't want to get a workout, you want to actually put this on a lower counter or a lower table, or if you can't do that, then step on a sturdy, stable stool that you don't fall off of. So hopefully with some of these tips, you'll be able to better use the Olympus and Jupiter citrus presses. They are currently my favorite citrus presses in the world. Once again, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.